What is going on, everyone? And today we are counting down my picks for the 10 worst movies of 2024. Now, it goes without saying, but this list is my opinion. I've seen 84 movies that have come out in 2024, and these are just my picks for the worst. They're the ones that I had the worst experience with, the ones that I got the least out of, the ones that I enjoyed the least. You know the drill. Now, if you were wondering, there's not going to be any honourable mentions here. Now, if you were wondering, I did have a bit of a difficult time coming up with this list because there was a few bad movies this year. But I narrowed it down to 10, and you'll be able to see me talk about all the other movies that I didn't like that didn't quite make my top 10 when either in the first couple of days of the new year, I'll be releasing a video ranking every single new release that I saw in 2024. So you'll get my opinion on everything that I've seen then, but today we're just counting down the 10 worst. No honorable mentions. Let's get stuck into it. Number 10 is Under Paris. I love a campy shark movie. I think The Shallows is good fun. I really like Deep Blue Sea. It's not a shark movie, but Alexandre Aja's Piranha film is so much fun. And Under Paris has the right ingredients. Takes place at the 2024 Olympics in the Seine River, where sharks kill all the people competing in the triathlon. And you get about 20 minutes at the end, which is really, really fun. And exactly that. It's a bloodbath. It's all chaos. It's mayhem. And it ends in a way where you're just like, oh, they fucking went there. Which I love. The problem is, this movie is 104 minutes long. And the 80 minutes leading up to that is so mind-numbingly boring. Like, you wouldn't believe. Like, I was checking how much longer I had left every 5 minutes. It was just all these characters that you didn't care about, given these, tragic past and setup and things just happening. Them talking and realizing what's going on, and it bored the living piss out of me. So this one was really disappointing because while it has the ingredients to be a really fun, campy shark creature feature film, it went so serious. And things like the sharks hiding in the catacombs and stuff like that, like under the Seine River and all this stupid bullshit. The fact that they were like preparing for all of this. That's hilarious to me. I love that. But they play it so dead serious, and so much of it is conversation-led, and yeah, great fun concept, awful execution. Coming in at number 9 on my list, we have Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Now, just the other day I talked about this film in my list of the top 5 most disappointing movies of 2024. I'll put a card up here, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much, but I probably will. I just don't understand the thought process with this movie. I don't understand why they thought this was the right way to go. The end of Ghostbusters Afterlife, you get a really nice send-off to those classic characters. And it just seemed like it would make sense for Frozen Empire to be a passing down the torch film. You have Bill Murray, Ernie Hudson, and Dan Aykroyd basically handing it over to McKenna Grace and Finn Wolfhard and Paul Rudd even. But instead of that, they decided to bring back the 3 still alive cast members from the original Ghostbusters. And you get this film that is so crowded and unfulfilling and unsatisfying. It just feels like they had no clue where to go when the answer is right there in front of them. Just make these kids the new leads because they're quite likable. I like these characters in Afterlife. But instead, Finn Wolfhard as Trevor is delegated back to being he's up in the attic chasing after this slime ghost, Slimer, and you have all these new characters. You have 13 lead characters in this film, and I don't mean like a couple of lead characters and all these side characters. No, really, you get to spend so much time with each of these characters, and it just feels like the movie and the narrative stand still. It's just a nothing movie. You get one scene of ghost busting at the start, and you get another one at the end when you get the Frozen Empire stuff, which is shoved aside until the last 15 minutes of the film. And then you have all this weird shit about Kumail Nanjiani, who I really like. But him is just in the movie and all, he's like able to control fire. He's the firebender or whatever it is. Then you have the other characters returning. You have Podcast here, and they're making a YouTube channel with Dan Aykroyd. It just feels like stuff happening. It's just a mess. I don't understand what the go was here. This was just a dreadful film that had no life, no personality. It had like one or two funny lines. You had this kind of strange, could have been interesting coming out of the closet story with Phoebe Spangler and Melody the Ghost, but it just feels so foreign because the movie already has so much other shit going on. It's just... this film perplexes me. Now, it's not unwatchable. It's passable at the very best studio entertainment. It's mindless shit. I hate referring to films as content, but this just feels like it was made for the purpose of being more Ghostbusters content. It is really disappointing. Coming in at number 8, we have a film that came out in the first couple of weeks of this year, and it has not risen above the batch of worst films, and it is Night Swim. Now, to give Night Swim credit, there are a couple of creepy scenes. The concept of this film surrounds a family that moves into the house of a haunted swimming pool, that has a haunted swimming pool in the backyard. So, to its credit, it delivers about 2 or 3 scenes in the swimming pool where there's an evil swimming pool and people die in the swimming pool. The problem is that it's a fucking movie about an evil swimming pool. What? It makes you laugh just thinking about it. Like, a killer swimming pool movie. How are you going to make that into a compelling 90-minute feature? They just don't. They just basically take it down the route of a been there, done that possession story. Eventually it comes to the fact that the pool possesses people and they're running around in, with demonic voices and blacked out eyes. And you have this one part where they go to like this insane asylum and find all this information off the previous owner. It's all the cliches of a classic possession story, but instead of that, it's a fucking swimming pool killing people. Kerry Condon, I don't know what you're doing here. You go from Better Call Saul to The Banshees of Inisherin to Night Swim. I just don't understand where studios or Jason Blum sees this premise. He sees, because this is based off of a short film, which is quite a good short film, and that short film is basically the opening scene, which the opening scene of this film is quite effective. I don't understand where Blumhouse see this and go, let's make the evil swimming pool short film into a feature-length film. It just baffles me. It's kind of funny in concept, and I think it's kind of fucked that the primary school that the kids go to in this film is called the Harold Holt Primary School. If you don't know Australian history, Harold Holt was an Australian Prime Minister who once went to the beach and went for a swim out to sea and never came back. And they name a school the Harold Holt Primary School in a film where there is an evil swimming pool and people swim in the pool and never come back out. This movie's weird. Yeah, it's not good. Let's just move on. Coming in at number 7, we have a film that I just watched the other day, and I don't even know why I bothered. It's Miller's Girl. Now, to be fair, Martin Freeman and Jenna Ortega are both fantastic actors, and with what they are given, they do a very good job. Here's the problem with this film. It's a film about a school student, a high school girl, having a relationship with her teacher, or trying to force herself into a relationship with her teacher. So it's uncomfortable. But then you have a line of dialogue in this film, which I will read out to you. Be warned, it's not nice. But that's all I need to say to describe just how wrong and gross and weird this movie is. He found his way around the elastic on her leg and slid 2 deft fingers into the warm darkness of her virgin. This is a 40-year-old man and a school student. This is not Lolita. There is no substance to back it up. It is not right. I'm sorry. Like I said in May, December with the other day, I'm fine with provocative film topics. May December's league's better than this. I'm not comparing the two anyway. I'm just saying the same kind of point. You have to do something with it. You leave this film feeling nothing. It doesn't make you think. Barely anything happens. It's just Jenna Ortega sending weird shit to her teacher, weird short stories, and it is just wrong. It's not right. Coming in at number 6, we have The Exorcism. And this is one of those ones where you see it only be basically announced weeks before its release. And then you go and actually watch the movie and you understand why. This is a very, very bad movie. Russell Crowe, on his Exorcist streak, he's actually an actor in this film playing a priest in a horror film about a possessed little girl in Georgetown. So it's a movie about the allegedly cursed production of The Exorcist. You have glimmers of good stuff here, like the concept and the idea that possession is like a metaphor, because Russell Crowe plays a recovering alcoholic in this film, and the way he slowly starts showing signs of possession is basically an allegory for him slipping back into his past addictions and them creeping back up on him and turning him into a monster. I like that. And then you also have kind of a rumination on whether or how a role can affect an actor, and how they may get so invested in that character and put their heart and soul into it that it can take a toll on them mentally. Then all those ideas are thrown away entirely for basically a rip-off of The Exorcist, and The Exorcist 3 for the most, basically as well. They kind of just do a bit of both. So it ends up just turning into the worst version of a possession story you could imagine. And it is just like, you had something, and you just go and turn it into like the worst possible version of itself and the thing it's making. Mark Kermode said that this film is a rip-off of a reshoot, and that is absolutely right. And it's an awful rip-off at that. Coming in at number 5, and my God, I can't believe that this film is only number 5. Yeah, we've had some stinkers this year. Anyway, it's tarot. You have a concept where you got a Final Destination ripoff where these kids play with these cursed tarot cards, and the tarot cards suggest the way they're going to die, and it's picking all these kids off one by one, and they have to figure out a way to break the curse. You're like, okay, fine, rip off Final Destination, do that. It could be fun, have some kills, like, within the theme of the tarot cards or whatever it is, like, the Joker or something. He does some magic trick to kill you. Something like that, something fun. Just make it bloody, make it gory, make it fast-paced. Make sure the characters are passable enough, and you could have something good. But it's a PG-13 film where the only reason anyone would watch this is for the kills and the concept of cursed tarot cards killing people. So the Final Destination concept is gone, basically, because there's no gore. And because there's no gore, what does that leave you with exactly? Characters? I couldn't tell you a single one. I couldn't tell you a single actor. Story? Teenagers get killed by apparitions of monsters from these cursed tarot cards. That is it. There is nothing here. This is like this year's Ouija. This movie is one of those piles of dog shit. Irredeemable, almost. The only thing that I could say positive about this film is that I do kind of like the look of, I think it's the Joker. I like that. I like the look of the tarot cards. They're cool drawings. And the scene when the chick gets sawed in half, like, it's not executed well at all. But if it was executed well, I'm like, that's not a bad idea. That is it. That is just little nuggets of things. Like, this is like having a pile of dog shit in your hand and going, oh, there's a bit of corn. Corn tastes good. Is that really a redeeming quality? This movie is horrid. This movie is absolutely just terrible. Horrible characters, unfunny shit. All the good scenes are rip-offs of other things. Like, there's literally one scene ripped straight out of Session 9 when the light scene's in this abandoned train station or subway and the lights start flicking off towards... I'm just like, that's from Session 9, but done 10 billion times better. Unoriginal shit. And it made a fuckload. And that depresses me. Coming in at number 4, we have Time Cut. And this is a film that I wasn't expecting to be as horrendous as it was. I just thought it would be a fun little film. It's just like, okay, we had Totally Killer last year. Time Cut was filmed before Totally Killer, come out after, whatever. But we got probably the most empty film of the year. I couldn't tell you a thing about the characters. There's almost no blood. The mask is boring. The killer reveal is horrid. The way it ends, I remember the way it ends, just thinking, that doesn't work in the slightest. It's just a nothing movie. It's just basically blobs of color moving around on screen, and it's an awful recreation of 2003. Like, they have people with Ugg boots at high school, people with those wheelie shoes skating around the high school halls, and they have fucking whatever, like a couple of needle drops. I can't even think of the songs at the moment. They have a couple of needle drops, and that's all it is. There's nothing done to recapture the time period. They did the bare minimum, and it was thrown out onto Netflix, and yeah, it's dreadful. It is really bad. It is just about like the most bland movie I think I've ever seen. And I'm not even exaggerating. There's not even a single standout quality of this film. It's just that shit. Coming in at number 3 is a film that premiered at Fantastic Fest in 2023 but didn't release in Australia until 2024. And it is Your Lucky Day. I heard some good stuff about this one. So when I watched it, I was expecting a 90-minute tight-knit bottle thriller. It's basically about a rich man, already very rich man in this cheap little convenience store, and he gets a lottery ticket and wins like $150 million. And all of a sudden, this crook in there pulls a gun on the guy, shuts the place down, and it should be nice and heated and tense. But what started off with a good setup for a good bottle thriller, ended up being a 90-minute long sermon. And it was excruciating. Now, this is a very difficult film to talk about because it deals with quite sensitive issues such as racism, police brutality, and classism. And I think it's easy to misinterpret when people criticize a film like this. You might be saying, oh, they're just bashing it because it's woke, or they're bashing it because it's, I know I'm not American, but MAGA, or some bullshit like that. That's not the case. The way it explores those issues is so extremely shallow and so just like hitting you in the face with a message and doing it in the most uninteresting and uncreative way possible. Like, there is literally a scene to comment on both racism and police brutality. There is literally a scene where there is a white police officer standing on an unconscious black woman. And it's just so unsubtle, uncreative with the way it decides to take its point. Again, I'm not criticizing the actual stance that it's taking. I'm criticizing the way in which it goes about it, and the shallowness and the hollowness and the basically preachiness and the almost like a sermon. It's really uninteresting. The film is never tense. It never makes you think about these themes past the surface level. It's a dreadful film, and I absolutely hated it. This is the kind of film that its message could be conveyed in a 10-word Word document. It's that shallow. It's literally racism bad, police brutality bad, which, of course, very valid statements, but when you're making a film and you're asking me to spend 90 minutes of my time and my own money to watch it, I want to watch an interesting exploration of those themes. I don't want to just be hit over the head with the message. I'd like to see some nuanced perspective. I would like to see how these issues legitimately do affect people. There's no real interesting thing to this movie. There's nothing here. It's dreadful. Let's move on. Coming in at number 2. Now, I just can't stress enough how shocked I am that this film didn't end up being number 1, because I absolutely hated this film. And it is The Strangers Chapter 1. I truly don't believe anyone sets out to make a lazy, uninspired film. There is just so much time and money spent and so much effort from so many different people that I truly don't believe that you can just make a lazy, chuck it out there film. The Strangers Chapter 1 is one of the laziest and most, I hate to use this word, pointless movies that I have ever seen in my life. Now, I'm not a big fan of the original Strangers. I think it's a pretty terrible film. There's moments that are solid, but overall I don't think it works. I quite liked Pray at Night. That was quite a fun time, but this film set up like, this new trilogy, and it's just like, maybe we're going to take it in a different direction, do something different with it. What it actually is not even a soft reboot, not even a reboot of the first film. It is a remake of the first film. It is a remake of the first film in just about every way, down to lines of dialogue, down to direct scenes, down to just about everything about this film is like the first, except the setup's a little bit different. Almost it all comes down to it. It's a remake of a film that I don't even like. And it is 10 times worse than that film that I don't like. I'm so perplexed at what the point of this film was. I was so shocked when the credits rolled. Like, I was bored out of my mind thinking, I can't wait for this to be over. But then when the credits rolled, and there was nothing interesting about this film, there was no new ideas, no new concepts, no world building, no anything, I literally felt my jaw drop. I'm like, you're shitting me. I just paid $17 to watch a remake of a film that I dislike when the marketing suggested that it was something new. A new, fresh idea. And so it just pissed me off. And this film, the characters in this film are probably stupider than they were in the original Strangers, which is a difficult task to clear, but it gets to the point. Well, it doesn't even get to the point. It just is from the word go, where the film isn't tense or suspenseful because you can't buy any of it. There are just some ridiculous parts that I was just like, this is horrible. Like, how is she sitting there playing the piano and the stranger is Baghead sitting right behind her? It's just like, are you serious? There's a mirror right above the piano. You're telling me she never looked up once? It is just the most unfathomably lazy, dull, excruciatingly boring film ever. The main characters suck. I don't see what the point of this film was. I absolutely hated every second of it. Yet still, we have one more film that is worse than The Strangers Chapter 1, and it's not Madam Web, and I feel like I have to defend myself before I even tell you what this film is, and the reason why I watched it. To spoil it, I'm a fan of Eli Roth. I like his movies. I thought, you know what, eventually I'm going to watch all of his movies. I may as well just chuck Borderlands on my list. I know I'm not going to like it, but I may as well just rip the band-aid off and get it done. And for one good thing, add it to my end-of-year ranking. Borderlands is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life. And I know some people went and watched it and go, oh, it's not that bad. Like, it's not good at all, but not one of the worst movies ever made. It's up there. It is up there. There is not a single thing about this film that I enjoyed whatsoever, and that is insane because it's got actors that I really like. I like Jack Black a lot. I like Cate Blanchett a lot. I like Jamie Lee Curtis a lot. What in God's name was this abomination of a film? And only just like about a month ago now, maybe a little less, Eli Roth was asked about Borderlands and the making of it. And just like a very brief off comment, but he said something along the lines of, oh God, I could write a fucking book about making that movie. And it's just like, you can tell he's already disowned it. And he directed most of it, but a lot of it came back to reshoots, and I think the guy that did the Deadpool films came back, and he was the one that filled in for Eli Roth because Eli Roth was busy with Thanksgiving, and thank God he spent time to that movie because that movie was great. But Borderlands, where do I even begin? I'm going on a rant, but you have all these great actors. I've never played the games, by the way, so if you've played the games, you probably hate this movie more than me, because I know that the actors are horribly miscast, but I like the actors, so that miscasting didn't bother me personally, because I have no experience with the games. Let's start with the worst. Jack Black as Claptrap. Potentially the most annoying character in cinema history. I hated him so much. How they made him so annoying and so unfunny is actually, like, impressive. Cate Blanchett doesn't sound like she wants to be there. You can tell there are parts of the movie that were originally going to be filmed, but because of all this delays and stuff like that, sometimes you cut to a black screen just halfway through the movie, and you have Cate Blanchett narrating what happened. It's just like, why are you just telling us this? Why don't we get to see it? And then you read about the production, and it's just like, okay, yeah, that was all reshoots and cut stuff that they had to do because it was a disaster making it. So you can tell where corners weren't even cut. They were absolutely hacked off. The green screen is noticeable in just about every scene. Like, it looks really bad and poor. Ariana Greenblatt, I think her name is, as Tina, I think, the fucking bunny girl. Not as annoying as Jack Black. Right, very close. Oh my God. That little bitch. I hated her. None of the action is fun. It's all so poorly edited together. It's always like, have someone holding a gun and it's a close-up of them and you can see the gun and they're going, pew, pew, pew. You've got a shooting sound effect, and then you just cut to someone, jumping out of the way or something. There's no violence or anything. I couldn't tell you a thing about the actual plot of the film. I really hated this, and I got to be perfectly honest, I watched probably the first half an hour of this, and then I found literally anything to do else around the house. I still had it on in viewpoint, but I was like, I could do the washing, I could, do a bit of that, and I'd just take my time with it actually, and yeah, I'll do all of that, because this movie is so fucking bad that it doesn't deserve my attention. Fuck this movie. Well, that is all for today. Let me know your picks for the worst movies of 2024. Let me know if you actually enjoyed any of these films, or if you agree with them, or if there's any films that I missed out on, like Madam Web, I didn't even bother. So yeah, let me know in the comments. I'll see you all later. Bye.